Hey guys, this is my first showcase video. I'm recording live, so there might be a few errors or stutterings in my speech or whatever, but I'm going to show you guys my coding and animations and scene and just my game so far, how it's all working and running and that sort of stuff. So I'll swap you over to the scene now. 1 second. Alright, so this is my Unity game that I've made so far. I currently have my player there, the blue one, and he's got a bunch of weapons in his hand. There's the enemy character and enemy boss character. I built this big ramp thing for testing gravity. I've got the camera and my lighting and a ground terrain that has a texture on it that's just measuring like 1 meter by 1 meter, and that's all I've got so far in my scene. I've still got other stuff to show you. Alright, so I've also got my animator set up so far, so I'll show you this. So these are the layers I've got so far. My base layer, left hand, right hand, both hands, and override. My parameters I've got so far are vertical and horizontal, which are for PlayStation controllers, analog stick. Moving forwards would be vertical plus, moving backwards would be vertical minus. Same with horizontal, would be left and right, plus and minus. So that's for movement. I also got my weapon type right and left, which is for picking which animation to play depending on what weapon you're using. So if you're using a sword, you'll have your hands like you have your hand like this for a sword, whereas if you've got a bow, you'll be doing like that type thing, or a gun will be like that. So depending on what weapon you have, it will change the numbers on these, and then that's the animation you'll be doing. So can move is when you're doing an animation, it decides whether you can move at the same time. So if this is true, like if there's an animation that you can move while doing, say like a charging attack, you'll be able to keep moving whilst attacking. Whereas normally this would be false, which means whilst you're attacking, you can't walk at the same time. Lock on is whether your character is locked onto an enemy or not. It will change the animation. So, don't know if you know most games. I guess there's normally an enemy, and then when you lock onto them, your player will keep facing towards them when they're walking, so they'll walk side or sideways. Whereas normally, if they're not locked on, they'll be walking. When they walk sideways, they'll turn that way and then walk that way. They don't walk sideways. So lock on will just change that animation around. Is sneaking is just basically the same as lock on. It detects whether you've pressed the sneak button. If you press the sneak button, you'll be crouching, walking around, instead of standing, walking around. Just changes those animations. On ground is if you're not on the ground or on the ground. If you're in the air. If you're in the air, you'll play like a falling animation. If you're on the ground, you'll be doing walking animations. I'm also going to have like air combat and stuff, which will also be based off of on ground too. So those are the parameters I've got so far. So starting with the base layer, which I've already got open here, I'll go into this gear thing here. Now I've got the weight set to 1. The base layer is basically for your legs, like the walking animations and stuff, but pretty much your entire body actually, but these other ones are your hands. So this one has no mask set on it, and it's just got override, all the basic stuff on this one. Just the basic base layer. Inside the actual layer itself, it starts off with normal locomotion. If I bring this over, I can show you it. So that's my normal locomotion. It does have some transitions, obviously. You can see all these little white liney things everywhere. The normal, if you double click on it, you can go into it. It's got the blend tree in here, which is based off the vertical. So you start off with an idle animation, which is just, you can't even see that because I'm there. Move myself up here. Actually, I'll move myself over here. And now I'll make this bigger. Alright, so this is the idle animation. It looks like this. Pretty amazing stuff. Cool. And then when you put this forwards a bit, oh, sorry. Take two. So, yeah, you put this forward, say idle animations like this, and when you move the analog stick forwards, which is a vertical, you'll start sort of slowly walking. So now it's on the second one, which is walk. And then if you go even further forwards, he starts running. But yeah, the animations are just temporary for like testing purposes. I didn't make these animations. I'm probably going to make better ones, I hope. I got these off of, I mean, they're not bad, but I got them off of the asset store. I prefer to get my own ones later. So yeah, that's my basic logo mission. So if I go back to the base layer again, no, I should probably... those are the numbers and stuff there too for it. I didn't show those. And also it's set to 1D, obviously. And it's based off the vertical, like I was saying, up in the top corner on this side. I'm on the other side, so yeah. Yeah, those things. Anyway, let's go back to base layer now. We'll go to falling. So the transition to falling stuff is just detecting whether you're on the ground is false, and transition to non-falling stuff is if it's true. It's just a common sense thing. If you're not on the ground, then you're falling. So my falling animations, I have to show you this pink guy here, but it's just this. Nothing spectacular. All this is pretty much just basic stuff. I haven't changed anything on it. I've got my lock on over here, which is for when I'm locked on walking. Can I get this with my... I can't. Okay, I'll just show this pink guy. So that's... This up here is like the analog stick. If I move this one forwards, he starts walking forwards. If I move it backwards, he'll start running backwards. Left and right, strafing. So if there's an enemy there, he'll always face towards the enemy, which is why he's always looking one direction. If I move around, he'll just keep facing that way, but still walking around. So he's locked onto someone. Yeah. This is all the stuff here if you want to check it out. I've got 2D freeform direction I'm using, and it's based off the vertical and the horizontal. And yep, that's that one. I'll stop this and go back to base layer. Now the transitions for this from falling is based on... Oh, also, all these have no exit time. So where it says it has exit time, the ball, make sure you check the off one because they don't have exit time. Anyway, back to conditions. The conditions are, yeah, from falling to lock on, it's based off if you're locked on, and if you're on the ground, then you'll be on lock on. Whereas the other way around is if you're just not on the ground. Whereas the transition from normal to this one is also just based on if lock on's true or false. Just, yeah, a normal thing. Then I got sneak. I'll open that up. Sneak's pretty much the same as lock on. It's set with the vertical and the horizontal, I think. Oh no, sneak's just... That's right. My sneak looks really dodgy inside here. It's not actually like this. It's a 1D thing, but I've temporarily set it up strange just because the animations were really bad. It looked like he was walking sideways. So I just blended two animations together to make it look like he was walking forwards. I know it's kind of bad, but... so really... You start off here, and then when you're walking forwards, he looks like he's walking sideways, and so does that one. So I put it in the middle, so that's walking forwards. He looks sort of like he's going forwards now. Yeah, so if you got a better animation, you could probably just set this up with 1D instead of a 2D freeform. I just set this up because the animations look bad. Yeah, so that's that. And then the transitions in them is also just if sneak is true or false. Pretty basic. And the same with falling is just sneak and ground, true, false. And then the lock on sneak is, yeah, if sneak is false and if sneak is true, because it doesn't matter if you're locked on. You could be locked on and sneaking too, I guess, and that will just transition over to this one, so which I'm going to show you now. So this is locked on sneaking. Locked on sneaking is a 2D freeform because you're always facing the one direction. And if you move the analog stick forwards, he sort of does this weird walking. It looks like he's going sideways, but he should be going forwards. And same with the backwards one, it just plays the same animation but in reverse. And then I got my left and my right, which actually look like they're going left and right more than the forwards one, but the forwards one still looks like he's going sideways, so it's just not a good animation. Yeah, those are all the numbers for this one, just all basic too. That's this entire one. So now left hand. Open this gear up. So the left hand weight is at 0.8. It's got the left hand mask, which I'll show you later. It's just a left hand mask. I don't really need to show you, but I'll show you anyway, in case you don't know what a mask is. And then the other things are all just the basic one. So don't want to change that. Open the left. So this is the left hand. I got different idle animations depending on which weapon you got. And then an empty one, which is everything goes back to. So open this up. So they're all just animations. They're not blend trees or motion trees, whatever you call them. They're just animations. So that's he's got a sword in his hand apparently, but his left hand. Yeah, I guess the sword will come out there. And then there's this one, which is unarmed, so he's about to get in a fist fight, punching. And then there's a shield, which looks the same as the sword one, but he's got his other hand closed because he's holding a shield. Oh, actually, it's still the left hand. Yeah, whatever. And then there's the gun. Oh, down here. Come back. So just got his hand out forwards and got a trigger finger. Yep, and these transitions, so they're based off of, like I was saying, with the left weapon type and the right weapon type. They all have no exit time as well. And because with the animations you can't go equal to, so you, for example, this one would be left weapon type is equal to 1, but I can't do equal to 1, so I've got left weapon type is less than 2 and left weapon type is also greater than 0, which is, it's 1. I did that with all of them, so this will be 2, what was it? I think this is 0 actually. Yeah, so that's 0, so it's less than 1. And then, yeah, that one's 3. And this one is, this one's 2. And then the transition back, there's multiple things, so all ones. So this one is, because this is 1, sword's 1. So if it's greater than 1, then you're no longer using a sword, you're using something else. So it will go back. And also, if it's less than 1, you're still not using a sword, so it will go back. It's the same with everything else. So unarmed, unarmed's only got 1 because it's the 0. So it just has to be greater than 0, and you're not using unarmed. Yeah, so that's basically how these work. And it's pretty much the same with the right, but I'll show you this anyway. So yeah, this is 0.8, uses the right hand as a mask. It's just the same, but right hand. And then I'll open that up. Right hand, I don't have a shield, which is a bit mean, a bit unfair on the left-handed people with the wield. But I'll probably add it later. If you want a left-handed character, you can have one. But right now, I didn't think of that when I was making this. So again, exactly the same thing, just other hand. So he's got a sword in this hand. And then this one, he's got his fists again. And then this one, he's got his gun in the other hand. Yeah. And then these are the same as well, just can't be equal to, so it has to be less than greater than, and no exit times. Yep. And then there's this, which is just the same too. So then the both hands. This one's got a 1 for the weight, because it looks cooler with a 1. I don't know, because I think it's heavier, so he has to like use more muscle to walk around, more tense. Whereas the sword, he's sort of like a bit more loose, so you can try to get the camera. It sort of wobble his arm a bit more, whereas the big one is sort of like holding it strong, like oh, yeah. So I set that as a 1, and then I got both hands as the mask. And I'll open that up now, and this is the both hands. I got a lot more weapons with both hands, just because there's a couple of cool ones. I'll show you. They've got axe and sword. They got different animations. So the sword one for a two-handed weapon is like this. So the sword would be like, he's holding it like that, and it's up here, the blade there, yeah. And the axe, on the other hand, is like this. So the axe would actually be there and sitting over his shoulder with the big blade bit over here, so he's like behind his head. Yeah. And then I got unarmed both hands, which is the same as all the other unarms, like the one-handed ones. And then I got the bow and arrow. Yeah, he's just holding a bow. And then I got the spear. Yep. And I got the both hand gun. As opposed to a single hand gun, he's got like the two-hand gun. Yeah. You probably can get that from the animation image right there, but I'll just tell you anyway. And then this is just the basic empty I got. So the transitions, again, are based off of numbers, but these are a bit different for the two-handed because it's going to be... I've only got left and right weapons. So if the right weapon is... I'll show you in the script later, but if it's greater than, I think, 10 it was, it becomes a two-handed weapon. So the two-handed weapons, if you got the right type, has to be like 15, 13, 12, 11, all that type of stuff. Whereas the left hand always has to be greater than 10. Oh, equal to 10. Left hand's always got to be equal to 10, I think it was. Is that 210? Yeah, greater than... yeah, it just has to be greater than 10, so... So that the right hand's the one that sets the weapon. The left hand one just... It just changes depending on whether it's two-handed or not. I don't have to show you this later, but... And then the transitions back, they got a lot more for two-handed because it's based off the left and the right hand, which is, yeah. Still based just the numbers and stuff, you can check them out there. 14, 10, and 14, and then transition 2 would be 13, 15, and 9. Whereas these ones are like... Yeah, so everything's got 3 back and 3 forwards. Which kind of makes sense, except for unarmed. Unarmed had 3 back still. And I think 1... No, it's got 4 forwards. Yeah, 3 back and 4 forwards. Did I need 4? I don't think I need this less then. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm pretty sure I don't need to. Yeah, I'll fix it now. Goodbye. Yep. Make sure to use it right. Oh, wrong one. Yep, so that's all them. They're, yeah, all pretty similar. Then the override, I got the weight down to 0, which is not right. It should be 1, I'm pretty sure. And then I don't have a mask for it, but I'll probably set one up later. No, actually I don't need a mask for it. It's an override, it would take over everything else. But yeah. Then this is the override, which is a bit crazy right now, and it's going to get a lot more crazy soon, because this is only the sword attacks, and the two-handed sword attacks, and the unarmed attacks. I still got axe attacks, I still got bow attacks, gun attacks, right-handed, no, not right-handed, like special move, two-handed, I don't know, that type of stuff. I'm going to have a lot of different attacks. Because I'm going to set up like a skill system thing. But yeah, right now this is for testing stuff, I just got small, I don't know if you call this small. Yeah, for now it's just kind of smallish. So these are just animations. There's nothing special about them. It's just cha, and then this one's just like rah, and this one's just like sha. So the transitions, they're just empty transitions right now. I haven't set them up. They still have exit time. They still have no conditions. They're just all going back to the empty. And the empty itself has a script called keep bool. Yeah, remember to put that on. What keep bool does, it turns the can move to on. Because normally on, so can moves over here. Normally on the animator, when a bool turns on, it will turn off like straight away. So I set up this script to keep the ball turned on so it doesn't turn back off again, unless I want it to be turned back off. Yeah, I can probably open that script now and just show you it. Pretty basic script. Move me around. I'm over here now. Yeah, so it's a very basic script. It just gives the ball name, whether the ball is true or not, and whether it resets on exit, so if it resets or not. So if you want to reset, then you can put this one in. If you don't want the reset, you probably don't need this, but I just put this on to be turned on and off. You do need the exit though, but you don't need the ball, because most things, they're going to reset. Yeah, but just in case I didn't want to reset for some reason. So this one just animate a set ball, whether the ball's name to what the ball should be. And this one sets the ball to not what the ball should be, so it turns it off again. This one turns it on, this one turns it off. Yeah. So that's that. Very simple script right there. And that's the entire animator, I think. So back to my scene again. I'll show you. Let's keep it in. Those are the animations I got. Mix and mode. I've also got RPG character animation pack, which cost a bit of money from the asset store. But what I wanted to show you was my character. No, not my character. My animations test character. Let's open these ones up. Oh, it's here. So these are my they're called masks for the animator controller. Oop. Just in case you forgot for some reason, this here is a mask. Yeah, so this one's the both handed mask. I just got both hands green, obviously, and IK is true in both of them. And then the left-handed one is just the left hand IK true, and the right-handed one is the right hand IK true. So yeah, very simple. So that's those. So that's all the animations. Now let's go back to my scene again and click on my player. Character. It's starting to get late. I'm going to go hurry this up. So the animator itself is on the character, test character, not on the controller. Controller is apparent to the test character. The test character has the animator. This is where the animations come from. Obviously. And then the controller itself has everything else. It's got the capsule collider, those are the basic numbers for it. It's got the rigid body, more numbers for them. I think a freeze rotation on the X and Z on the constraints. I then got two scripts added to it, which is the input handler for the PlayStation controller and keyboard. Just what buttons I'm pushing and pick it up and make it move. And then I got the state manager, which is currently doing everything. It's got stats and states and everything. I'm going to fix that later. I've split up to a few different scripts, but right now it's just everything. I'll open up the camera first. I just want to show you. My camera has the base camera stuff, but it's also got, the way it's set up is 3 different things. A camera holder, a camera pivot, and a camera main. So the main camera is the camera itself. The camera pivot is for like angling backwards and forwards. And then the camera holder is for like rotating around the player. So the player's there. And then camera pivot. Yeah. So this is what I was talking about in one of my previous videos. I said I had a problem where the camera was like going inside the player. It's because I had 2 different parts that were both in the same spot when they should have been separate. I can show you what I mean by that right here. So the camera, if you look over here, it's got the little transform thingy where you can move the camera around. Yeah, this thing. So that's on top of the camera for the main camera, obviously. The pivot is also on top of the main camera, and then the camera holder should be on top of the character. What I had before was it was on top of the camera as well, and I didn't like that. So yeah, keep them separate. Now the script is placed onto the camera holder. The pivot is actually empty and has nothing on it. and the main camera is the main camera. So the camera script, I can open this up now. This is my camera script. It's got whether it's locked on or not, the speed that should follow the player, the speed that the mouse will move when you're looking around, same with the controller speed when you move the analog stick, how fast it will move around, the target which you were following, which should be the player, and then the locked on target, which if you usually when lock on, the camera is always facing towards the enemy. So yeah. Then these ones are hidden from Inspector. They are set by code itself, don't need to be set in the Inspector. It's just the camera pivot, finding where it is, and the camera transform itself. These ones are all just for changing the angle of the camera. Just most of these are set. These top ones here are set in the Inspector, except for that one. That's a private. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And these ones are all private too, and private it's not set in the Inspector. They're set by code. This one is just the angle up and down. Yeah. Initialization is pretty much a start code, like public void start, except for I can call it from another script. So if I wanted my state manager script over there to start this script's start method, I could just put this script.init and then start it. Because you can't use a start script on another script for a different script, but you can use an init script on another script for a different script. That's just so I can start it from another script. I don't have to, because normally start, it's hard to explain. Normally start can only start if the script exists, whereas init can start if the script doesn't exist. You can start it from another script. Yeah. So init's a good thing. Init, I just got the target itself and the transforms and just setting all the basic stuff up. Then tick, pretty much the same as init, but it's an update. And it also has the float D, which is delta, for time.delta time. So it's an update statement that comes with the delta time already added to it, so I don't need to keep adding it all the time. And it can also be called from another script. So my updates can't normally be started from another script either, so tick's a bit better. So what this one's doing is it's just changing the update for your mouse and your controller. It's changing the speed depending if you're using a mouse or a controller. So this one here is if you're using a mouse, then the target speed will be the mouse speed. Whereas this one here is if you're using the PlayStation controller, the target speed will be the PlayStation controller speed. Yeah, and these ones are just updates for inputs, so if they're being moved and whatever. And then this one's following the target, so it keeps following the target. And if you rotate the camera, then the camera will rotate. This one is the follow target script, which is getting called here. It's got the time.delta time, and then it just makes the camera follow the player. Then handle rotations, oops, I don't want to click you. Handle rotations is for when the camera rotates around the player. This is, that. So this is if it's not locked on, and this is if it is locked on. Because if it's locked on, you don't really want to rotate around the player as much. So just rotate around the enemy, I guess. And then this is also, Then I made the camera into a singleton because you only want one camera in the game unless you've got what is it? I know some games you have fixed cameras and they when you walk to it they move. But this is not one of those games. This only has one camera and the camera's going to follow the player around. So I made it singleton, so if there's more than one it will delete the other ones. And that's the camera for you. So now back to the player again. And the player controller. The input script I'll show you now. This is for the PlayStation control, or the keyboard too, I guess, but I'm focusing more on PlayStation control right now. Try and make this video quicker. Alright. So I got all the inputs for the PlayStation. So vertical and horizontal is your right analog stick moving, I think. Could be wrong. And I do have a left one somewhere. I think the left one was in the camera. Yeah, so the right one's on this one, left one's the camera one. Camera script. And I got all the L's and R's, which are just and the buttons, you know, just the bumpers and the analog stick down. And then the circle, squares, X triangles, and the start options, start and option buttons. And then the arrows, left, right, down, up arrows. And because L2 and R2, the two bumpers at the end, are actually not buttons, they're the same as analog sticks, they are axes. So I've got to pick up for the axis, which axis goes by float, whereas a button goes by bool. Which is why the analog sticks up here are floats as well. And also the arrows themselves are not buttons. The arrow buttons are not buttons, they are axes as well. So you've got the horizontal arrows and the vertical arrows, which are set by floats. So I've got to get floats for them. And then I got my state manager script and my camera manager script, which, why is that forwards? And then my time.delta time's coming in here. And then I got my start script, because this doesn't have to get called by another script, so I can just start by start. I don't need an init. But the start script is starting other scripts as start scripts. It's really hard to say. It's starting the state manager's start script, aka the init script, right here. And it's also starting the camera manager's one, right there. And it's also setting the transform for the target in the camera manager to this, which is the player, because this script's set on top of the player, if that makes sense. Yep. Then I got my fixed update again, because it doesn't need to be called by another script. I don't need fixed tick, I'm using fixed update. But this is just getting the get input and also getting all this other stuff. Basically just starting all these codes down here that I'm going to show you in a second. And it's also setting the time.delta times. This is where the time.delta time is getting set from. It's getting set from this script, which is kind of a strange place to set it. I need to get like a manager script or something later and set it up in there instead. I got that getting set for fixed delta time and also just delta time. They're both getting set and then equal to delta. So the delta is getting equal to both of them. I don't know, there's a word for that. More precise. My state manager, a tick. That's what we're saying. You can call the tick update from inside an update script on a different script. So it doesn't get called update. You can call it from a different script. So the state manager's update is only running if this update is running. Yeah. And that's getting set. It's also setting the delta from here, which is the time.delta time. It's also getting set from here. Then I got input codes, which is pretty big. Probably going to get bigger later, but yeah, it's pretty big. So the vertical and horizontal, which is the analog sticks, are just getting from the get inputs. The L2 and R2, because they are axes, I'm trying to convert them into buttons. So if it's not equal to 0, so if they have been moved a little bit, doesn't matter how much, if they've just been moved, then they'll set off these if statements, which is turn it to input is true, so it's now a button. So if it's greater than 0, it's true. If it's not greater than 0, it's false. So it's basically on and off. Yep. Same with the arrows, arrow keys, the arrow buttons, sorry. It's a bit bigger though, obviously, because it's got left and right. So if it's less than 0, then left will be true. If it's greater than 0, then right will be true. And it's the same with the verticals. So if you're pushing the right one, then it will increase the number. If you push the left one, it will decrease the number, which will just make it a true or false, which turns on those buttons and off those buttons. And they go else if they're not, or if they're equal to 0, then they are false. Yep. Then all the other inputs are easy ones because they're just buttons. So if you push a button, then you get the button. Okay. Update states is also pretty big. Even bigger. It's pretty much the rest of the script. So this just controls when you push a button what's happening. So if you push the L3 button, you'll go into sneak mode, or you'll go out of sneak mode, or just swap between them. Yeah. These other buttons I haven't got set up yet, so that's why they're all empty, except for some of them have got duplicates, which I should probably delete you. I'll do it later though. And then I got my square, square button currently is swapping weapons. It's just for testing. I'm not going to keep it as this. So square button will swap your, I think, right-handed weapon. Yeah. State manager.weapon type right will increase. So your weapon's going to keep swapping to the right with the right-handed weapon. If it gets greater than 15, it will go back down to 0. So it does like a loop. So it starts at 1. You keep pressing square, it will go 2, 3, 4, all up. Once it reaches 15, it will go right back to 0 and start at 1, 2, 3 again. So it does a big circle. Yep. Then I got, if it's equal to 3, because I've only got 3 right-handed weapons, which is the sword, the gun, and the unarmed. I think I had another one. No? Anyway, yeah, sword, gun, and unarmed. Yeah, it's 3, because it's 0, 1, 2, and then 3. So if it's equal to 3, it'll add 7 on, which will make it equal to 10. And when it's equal to 10, it will become 2-handed weapons, not one-handed weapon anymore. Which is why it goes up to 15 up here. Yeah. So, if the right hand is greater than 2, then the left hand will become rely on the right. So, if it's greater than 2 and you want it to 2-handed weapons, because 3 is a 2-handed weapon, well, 3 is technically 10, and 10 is a 2-handed weapon, then it will go rely on right on the left hand, because you don't want a left-handed weapon anymore. It's going to become a 2-handed. So your left hand will just jump onto the 2-handed sword or whatever. That's what that one's doing there. And then this one, in the state manager, I have a script for updating animations. This one just sets those animations up. Circle is the same thing, but for changing the left-handed weapon. And that's pretty much it. It will only change the left-handed weapon if you're not using a 2-handed weapon, obviously. And then it updates the animation. And then the R3 is to change lock on and not lock on. We'll just swap between them. If you push R3 down, you'll lock on. If you're already locked on, you push it down, it'll unlock. But it will only do it if there's a target nearby to lock onto. If there's no target nearby to lock onto, it will turn false and you will not lock on. Yeah. Pretty simple. Kind of. So that's my input handler so far. So back to the character again. State manager script is on the player character as well. So you check out all these numbers first if you want to, and stuff, and I'm going to jump into it. Most of these ones up here you don't need. You only need the Unity engine right now. I don't know what those other ones are, but I just got them for now. So I got my initialization stuff. This is just the stuff you get from the beginning. Got my inputs, which are buttons that are getting pressed on the keys or controller. My stats, which is going to go into a stat script later. I don't have a stat script yet, so they're all just getting stored in here. But eventually I'll have like strength and power and all those things. But right now it's just move speed and sneak speed and all those things. Yeah. And player gravity is just a temporary thing that I've made. Because in my previous video, I sort of talked about how my gravity wasn't working properly and I was just sort of floating down. So I set up a temporary gravity script. Oh, that's what this is for. Yeah, it works for now, but I'll put in a proper thing once I figure out what was going on. Then there's the states, which is whether you're on the ground or whether you're sneaking or whether you're locked on. Just the animation that should be playing, depending what you're doing. Or, yeah, we'll just do animations based. So if you've got a certain weapon, then you'll be playing that animation. Just animation states. These are just for testing. I'll probably just ignore those if I were you, but just testing. These are currently all my weapons types. So these are one-handed weapons here, like I was saying. This one's 0 is unarmed, 1 is melee, 2 is gun. Then after that it goes 2-handed weapons, which are up here. And they are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Then the left-handed weapons are down here, which are 0 again, 1, 2, and 3 for those. And then rely on right is what I was talking about. If you're using a 2-handed weapon, then your left-handed weapon will be equal to 10. So it'll become a rely on right, which doesn't do anything, it just sets it to a 2-handed weapon. Yep. Then these are all hidden from the inspector stuff and get set in the code, so yeah, just keep them separate. And these are just for testing stuff and probably get changed later. That's why they're not added to any headers. So there's a target animation. So when I'm attacking, I can press a button. It will play whatever string animation was written in that string. So if I write attack 1, then when I press that button, it will do attack 1. Just for testing stuff. Whereas this one here is also for that gravity system that I set up. This one's also for the gravity setting, and so is this one. And this one's, these two are testing ones. Yeah, so they're all just temporary ones. Then there's my initialization. The set up animator, which is going to run from this one here. And then I got my rigid body getting set, with all the stuff getting set, just setting everything. Animator hook, which is another code I'm going to show you later. And that sets your player layer to 9 and ignore layers. So this is when you're falling and you land on something. If you're landing on like a cloud, you want to ignore that, so you fall through the cloud. You don't want to ignore the ground, so the ground would be greater than 10. Yeah. Then there is the animator getting set to the ground on true, because you want to start your character standing like he's on the ground, not falling randomly. Okay, now the setup animator just sets up your animator. Yeah, it's a small script. You can just read it. Basically, it just finds where the animator is coming from an active model. If there's no model found, then it doesn't. It says there's an error. And then, yeah, ignores it. Otherwise, it's just going to set up your animator to the animator that's on the active model. Okay, and then I got fixed tick, which is just a fixed update. And that runs at detect action. If you're doing an action at the time, then it does all this other stuff, so you can't do anything else. Action's pretty much like can move and can't move, but it's like, so normally can move and can't move is if you're attacking, you can't walk. Whereas action is you could be attacking and drinking something at the same time. It's more like a hand type thing, I guess. Maybe not drinking, but you can like drink and walk at the same time. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even think myself. Then this is just more stuff getting said about falling. This is, yep, if you're falling, then you'll be moving at a certain speed, it will change your drag. Or if you're walking, your drag will get changed, otherwise your drag's going to be equal to like 0, I think. Oh, 4, sorry. Yeah. So this is your movement speed. If you're sneaking, you want to go into sneak speed. It just swaps those two around. This is if you are on the ground, then your base your movement speed whilst you're walking. And it also sets these ones for the gravity system that I made for when you're not on the ground, which is here. So this is that temporary gravity system that I was talking about again, which just makes you fall faster because he was just falling really slow before. This is if he's not locked on, how he'll walk. Otherwise, if he is locked on, he'll do something else which I can't show you anyway now. Handle movement animations. It gets played there. Detect animation. If you can't move, ignore this stuff. If you can move, do this stuff. If you can't, if this button has not been pushed, or any of these buttons haven't been pushed, then ignore the rest of this. If any of these buttons have been pushed, then this will happen. And it will set up these. Basically, if you can't move, then I'm just going to try to explain this. If you can't move, then you're not going to do one of these. If you push the button, then you are going to do one. You haven't pushed the button, then you're not going to do one of these because you're not doing anything. My brain's going to explode soon trying to explain this stuff. All right, tick update statements. This one's detecting if you're on the ground or not, based on a script down here called on ground. This one is setting the bool if you're on the ground or not, based on that exact same thing right here. If you're not on the ground, it will set your falling speed, so you start falling faster and whatever. That's for the gravity thing, again. And then this one's just setting up. This is just temporary, and you probably don't need this. It's just for swapping weapons over. This is the code that made my game crash in the last video. Yeah, this is just like, if you swap weapons, your animation will change, but also the weapon itself will change. So if you swap to the animation with the axe, you'll be holding an axe. If you swap to the sword one, you'll be holding a sword. That's this. Then I got handle movement animations, which is if you're sneaking, you'll get the sneak animations. If you're walking, you got the walking animations. Then I got on ground, it just detects if you're on the ground or not. So it sends out a raycast to how far below the player the ground is. If the ground's close enough, say you're about this far away, you play a falling animation. If you're this far away, you teleport to the ground, so you're not falling anymore, and then it will turn the I'm on the ground ball to true. Yeah. Then I got the handle weapon types, which just sets the animations up for it's the same as this handle animation movement thing up here, but it just sets the weapon animations. And yeah, that's my state manager, probably one of the biggest scripts I've made so far. Then what else do I have in the scripts? Oh, animated hook, I was going to show you that. I don't even remember where I set this up. I think I was still making it. Yeah, I haven't actually finished making this yet. So there's the animated hook. This is just the root motion attacks, which I haven't got made yet. That's for the next video. So I'm going to start setting up the attack system, which is when you need this whole script. It's currently not finished yet, and just ignore that, that's not Twitch. So yeah. That one's that one, and the other one was the enemy target. I also just switched again. I was going to do this like 4 times. Noises. My enemy target is currently empty because I haven't actually started doing enemy target lock-on stuff yet. But this will get placed onto the enemy, and this will be the focus for your camera when you lock on or focus on this script, which is attached to the enemy. But I haven't got that set up yet, so don't worry your heads about it. I want to save this. Okay. Those are all the scripts I've got so far. So now, the last thing to show you guys is the game running, which is probably the most exciting bit. Let's open it. So yeah, I'm gonna make this bigger if I can. I cannot. Alright. So I can walk, I can look. When I walk without looking, he'll run sideways like that. And I can run this way and he'll run that way. Whereas if I look that way and then click forwards, he'll run forwards, obviously. But if I turn the camera, he will keep running forwards. I don't know, use the arrows. If I do use the arrows whilst looking around, he can look at the same time as walking, which is tricky. But yeah, normally you normally push the analog stick forwards and then look to move. Well, that's what that is. Otherwise, you can also push the other analog stick sideways and he will start running sideways whilst looking in a certain direction. He can do both. He's talented. He can look and move at the same time. Yeah. Okay, the animations that I got so far was swap weapon ones, just testing ones. If I open up my controller, you can see down here I got both hands unarmed. You can't see because I'm sitting on top of it, but if I move myself up here, literally right below me, here, it says both handed unarmed and rely on right, which is your weapon types. So if I cycle through my weapon types, I can press these buttons and they will change. So now it says both hand unarmed. There we go. Yep. Both hand melee. So now I've got a two-handed sword. And I can still move and look around and walk. And I've got a big ass sword. Sorry about cursing. Yeah. If I click it again, I now got both hands bow. I don't know why there's no space there. And the left hand's still relying on right. If I go again, I got both hands gun. If I go again, I got both hands axe. And I know this looks kind of dodgy right now. That axe is supposed to be behind his head and he's I just haven't set up the kinematic stuff for it, so it's going in front of his face. And yep. And then I got spear, which I'm pretty sure he'll be stabbing himself through the leg right now, but I'll fix that later. And then I got the two single hand ones. So now I've got right hand unarmed and left hand unarmed. So I can swap my left hand around by clicking this button here. Now he's got left hand melee, which is why his hand's sort of like this now because he's got a sword there. Whereas other hand's still punching, so he's like stab, punch, stab, punch. Yeah. And if I go again, then I got left-handed gun, so his fingers out like a trigger. And again, what's that? That's a shield. So he's now got a shield in his hand, yeah. And again, we'll go back to unarmed. So now his right hand swap to melee, so he's got a sword in one hand. So I haven't set up weapons for all these yet. I've just got the axe, the two-handed sword, and the one-handed sword. So that's his one-handed sword. So he's got a one-handed sword, and he can also have a, if I swap his left hand around, if it's going to work, he's got a gun. So he's got a sword and a gun, and he can still run around and shoot and stab people. Pretty cool. Whereas if I keep swapping his right hand enough times, he's got two guns now. I keep swapping his right hand, it will go back to two-handed weapons. Now he's got both hands unarmed again and both-handed swords. So I don't need to worry about swapping the left over. Because the left will go to rely on right, like I was saying. So, just get my sword back because it's the cooler one. There we go. So these guys currently don't have anything set on them, so they're just sort of like dancing. Because I haven't actually got a code on them right now. I'm just playing animation, falling animations, and they drift around because they've got no gravity or anything. Anyway, I'll show you I'll show you sneak first, sorry. Sneak button, what button did I set? Oh, there we go, that's sneak. I don't know what button I pushed, I just pressed everything. So yeah, I can crouch around and sneak. So sneaking, when you walk forwards, you'll sort of walk towards the camera, otherwise you'll walk towards whatever arrow or whatever direction you put your analog stick. Yeah, they're just going to keep spinning around forever now, aren't they? I don't know what button was, sneak. There we go. Back to normal again. My falling from short distance looks fine. He'll do his falling animation, just sort of like glide down. That was not supposed to happen. So yeah, if he's falling a short distance, it'll look fine. If he's falling from a high distance, because my gravity is currently not set properly, it would look not so fine. He's sort of like, I mean, it's not bad, but he's just sort of like drifting down. He should fall faster, I think. And also, if you're sneaking and falling, I've got to show you that too, I guess. It would also still work, yeah. I don't know, I'm just mashing every single key, because I can't remember what I said was the sneak button. Sneak and fall, and then keep sneaking while he's landed. Yeah. And that's pretty much my entire game so far. Just for fun, I like pushing these guys off the edge, so I'm going to do that now. Oh shit, I just fell off too. See, his gravity is so much faster than mine. But yeah, that is that. Oh yeah, also check my console. You might have noticed I had some errors. This is just because he has detections on his feet. Whenever his foot touches the ground, it has a detection event happening. And I have no code, like no script set up for that yet, so it's just running an error saying, are you missing a code for his left foot and his right foot and his left foot, and just keeps going whenever he takes a step. But I'm going to set up like sound things, so whenever he takes a step it will make a crunk, crunk, crunk noise, but I haven't got that done yet, so yeah. I think that's everything. Oh, I have probably one last thing. My inputs. This is a bit of a boring part to show you, but you probably need this if you want to copy my stuff. Yeah, you can copy my stuff, I don't mind. So my horizontal inputs set to this one. My vertical inputs set to this one. I'm not going to speak now, I'm just going to show you. X, you can pause. There's a pause button somewhere down in the corner. Is it this side? This side. Yeah, this is trippy. Yeah, at the corner. Okay, there's a pause button now. So just pause and look. If I'm going too fast, I'm sorry, Blue. I'm probably going way too fast for you guys, but just they're pretty much all the same. The only things that are different on them are axis. This one's 6th, if you noticed, whereas this one's 7th. I mean, it has got some different stuff, but mostly it's just the axis 8th. It is a very useful thing that I found. If you look on my previous videos, I had like a PlayStation controller, and it just tells you which buttons translate to which inputs. You're probably better off finding one of those for yourself than trying to copy all this stuff, but yep, just go ahead and copy if you want. I'm going way too fast now. I just want to get this done. Yep. Oh, and these ones have joystick buttons and stuff too, so yeah. Pretty cool. I think I already did that one. Jump. Not sure what submit is. I'm not sure what submit is again. Cancel. Share is the share button on the PlayStation controller. Options is the option button on the PlayStation controller. Start is the big center touchpad button on the PlayStation controller. Yep. Cool. And I think that's about everything I need to show you guys. So I'm going to swap back over to myself over here. Me. And over here. Hello. Alright. Ow. I hit my hand. Sorry if that was really loud. Hey. I don't know which way my hand normally goes. This camera's all flipped backwards and stuff. So if you enjoyed my video, please leave a like, a share, and hit that subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's here somewhere. And there's also a little bell button. It's probably pretty useful if you hit that too. See you in the next video. Well, I won't see you, but you'll see me in the next video. Bye. I don't have a blooper reel for this one, I'm sorry, because it was filmed live. I am a blooper reel. Yeah. See ya.